son of a Night Fury, written by Dragonfan 101 Chapter 3. The Molt Spike didn't know how long it had been since he and his father have been living on this island. Over a decade at this point, if memory serves him correct. It felt like it was just yesterday when it was still a hatchling, and was just starting to talk. But now, it all feels natural to him. Spike had been living with his father on this island for years. They mainly stayed safe within their cave for the time it took for him to grow until they were ready enough to leave the island. It's been a very long time since his father took him in and raised him as his son. And despite them mainly living alone on this island together, they had been such a great time together as father and son. They had really adjusted to living in the cave the Night Fury found years ago. At this point, it was their home cave which they always went to at the end of each day. While it had grown a bit tiring from doing so little each day now, they've at least stayed safe on this island, and didn't have to move somewhere else, thankfully. Spike had grown a lot since he started to talk somehow like a human. He had grown to be pretty strong since his father started training him in ways of hunting and survival, and he had grown sharper spines and claws with all he's been going through. They usually did a routine to help keep Spike prepared for any signs of danger, but after nearly 15 years or so last he checked, they have barely had to struggle during a fight. While his father did go out and hunt bigger creatures for food from time to time, making sure he doesn't slow down with his skills either, they mainly just spent all day in their little spot on the island. Spike was far different from other dragons as he had started to grow. He started to talk more and more like humans can, and could still understand what his father and other dragons could say. He had to keep these unique traits hidden the best he could whenever they'll eventually leave, since they don't want to stir up trouble with other dragons. But with how long it's been since they've stayed here, they will have to leave at some point. It's only a matter of time. We opened to a shot of the same cave Spike and his father were staying in still. The Night Fury went out to get some more food while Spike was left to look after things. He had grown to be over 6'5" feet at his current age, when he stood on two legs, which he was able to do unlike his father. He was really tall in some areas, but he still had much room to grow like his father. He still doesn't know how or why he's grown so differently compared to the other dragons of this world. Spike was using some wood to help adjust a few pieces of self-made furniture they made around this room. They made a couple nests with cloths around them for sleeping at night, and since Spike's grown to be smarter than most dragons, even during cold winters, they found ways to seal the cave up from getting too cold, yet still are able to handle cold nights and bad weather whenever it happens. Spike's grown to be a lot more civilized than most dragons, both thanks to his father raising him to grow the best he could, and due to things he taught himself. Spike sighed to himself as he finally finished patching up a small little bucket they made to help store water. He mainly uses it for drinking, or whenever it's time to eat, they'll heat the water up for some fried fish or other forms of food. But even with it being done, he could only look at himself and question all he's been doing for years. Another day, and we're still in this cave, Spike said to himself as he picked up the bucket and placed it near his nest that he sleeps in, which was right next to his father's much larger nest, which would make it easier for the both of them. But Spike barely felt that interested in things right now since he felt pretty bored. He's been doing almost the same routine for years at this point, and it's gotten really old. Spike sat down near the hot springs and looked at his own reflection, really taking in how different and unique he is compared to every other dragon here. Spike often felt far different than the other dragons he's seen. While he's grown to be strong and pretty smart over the years, with all the other dragons he's seen, he's questioned far more of where he's from. He may have more growing to go through, sure, but as he looked at himself, he sighed again, seeing just how little he's been doing to find out. We've been living here for years, and we still haven't done anything to find out where I'm from, or why I ended up here. I'm glad Dad raised me and all that, but being here for so long, without going out to find answers, it's just, ugh. Spike said to himself as he looked at his claws. He felt a strange itch around his body again that he's felt since this morning. After giving his arm another scratch, he started to stand up in order to think straight. We can't stay here forever. Dad knows this. Just, what's keeping him from letting us leave finally? Spike asked himself as he looked around the crystal cave. He's had a lot of time to question stuff like this to himself whenever his dad was out on hunts. He knows they may leave someday pretty soon, but he's questioned why they've stayed here this long without trying to at least see more of what's out there. Maybe it's from his own personal experience, Spike suggested to himself as his father spent a long time alone, constantly going to places that were dangerous and could have gotten him killed, so that may be a reason for him. But Spike just wishes they would leave the place a bit more. It's only a matter of time. But how much longer will it be before we leave? Spike asked with worry as he kept scratching himself, feeling irritated by how much it's bothering him. But as Spike was thinking over to himself, he soon heard someone land by the entrance of the cave, and he knew who it was. He looked behind him, and saw his father had made it back with more food, mainly consisting of fish, a few things of meat they could cook, and even some fruits which Spike had grown fond over. "Hey Dad, how was the hunt?" Spike greeted as the Night Fury put the food down near the cooking spot for later, and sighed tiredly after how long it took. Exhausting, had to spend over an hour finding the proper fish, and carrying it all back here isn't as easy as it looks. He replied while he went up to Spike and rested right next to him, and Spike said a bit knowing how much that must have been for him. It's been like that for years after all. At least the foods we have now will last a few days before we need to go out again. That's nice at least, right? Spike asked, which he had to agree with. Yeah. I can agree with that. Believe me, when you're ready, you'll understand it. It takes a lot more to survive out there. For most dragons, they don't have a place like this. They have to constantly move from place to place, try and find what they can to survive, or risk dying of another predator, or starving to death. He explained, which made Spike feel guilt for any dragon who to go through it. That includes his father. He knew life wasn't the best for him before this, and he knew that he's doing what he can to help him prepare, but they've been here for so long. Spike barely feels that pressured by it. Dad. We've been in this same nest for years. Ever since you raised me, we've had to hunt and find food together from time to time, sure, but sometimes our hunts feel a bit easy. We always go to the same fishing spots or places in the forest for things to hunt. I don't see how some dragons didn't take this place as a home themselves. Spike replied as this island could let them live a lifetime here. I know, son, but it's the only place I know that can keep you safe. Out there. There's always something that could attack us, even kill us. I've flown over the edge of the world before, and there's always something that could make things worse for us. He replied while they looked at the sunlight through the open cracks in the place. While that is true, isn't that part of life, always needing to go out and experience what it has to offer? How will we learn anything just from staying here in this cave? Not gaining experience to become stronger dragons than we are now. Spike asked, which made him question why he's saying this. Why do you ask this, son? You like it here, don't you? It's our home. We have all that we need, right? He asked as he tried to delay things. He just didn't want to risk him getting hurt. I do like it here, Dad. But with how long we've been here, I just want to see new places, experience what it's like to travel across the world, see what else is out there, learn from mistakes that we make, grow as better dragons. And really try to find a place where we belong, because as much as I like it here, we've stayed here alone, without ever trying to find another dragon who could understand us. We can't just stay here forever. You know this. Spike explained, which made him look down regretfully. He knew Spike would question this stuff when the time came. They both know they're not directly blood related, but they still love each other like a father and son after all the time they've spent together. But he knew that one day, they would have to try and leave, to find out if Spike's real family is even still alive, or if there are more Night Furies out there. The world is massive for his kind, and the possibilities are endless. Spike saw his father was thinking over all of this. He could see that it was true. For crying out loud, even over his entire life, Spike's father never had a proper name. There are many things that could be answered, and they'll have to find out at some point. Dad? Spike asked with worry as he rubbed his head a bit, and the Night Fury sighed, knowing how true this is. You're right, son. We've been here for too long. I've been raising you for this moment for a long time. And if we're ever gonna find answers, we need to see what's out there. He replied as they looked towards the exit of their cave. So this means we're finally gonna leave? Spike asked hopefully while his father was getting up to stretch out his wings. I believe so, son. I think it's best we head out tomorrow and see what lies beyond this island. Even if you don't have wings like me, I'll keep you by my side no matter what. He assured, which made Spike smile a bit hearing that. Thanks, Dad. I know it's rough, but that's all a part of growing up. I'm sure somewhere out there is a home that's even better for us than it was here. Spike said hopefully while he got up and stretched his arms. Maybe so, but we're gonna need you to stay on all fours like every other dragon. Some might even see you as a human in disguise somehow if you go walking around like this, he said while motioning at his body, which made Spike raise an eyebrow. You just gestured to all of me. Spike complained while his father chuckled a bit in response. What I'm saying is that no matter where we go, you should just try and look like the other dragons. The last thing I want is for us to stir up a fight with others. He replied while Spike felt like he could use some air. Alright, I understand, Dad. I'm just gonna get some air, try and explore the place one more time before we go tomorrow, okay? Wherever we're going, it's gonna be a long flight. Spike said as he was starting to leave, and he kept on scratching himself, which his father noticed. Are you sure about that? You seem to be distracted with something, he asked as he saw a few red marks on Spike's body, possibly caused by all the scratching he's been doing. Don't worry, Dad, it's just an itch. I'm sure it'll go away soon. I'll be back in a bit, okay? Spike asked as he was taking his leave while his father was left alone, and he only sighed sadly seeing his son go, but he at least hoped he'd be safe. And as he looked around the cave, he knew they'd have to take care of a few things before they go. After that conversation, Spike left their home to see the island one more time before they go tomorrow. While he has to go it on foot since he doesn't have wings, it at least gave him time to take in the sights and think over what will happen next. Spike walked through the forest as the sun shone down on the island. He could hear animals going about their day, not really noticing anything else. While Spike was a bit worried with how it's gonna go, he was also excited that they were finally gonna leave this place to see what's out there. He still questions how he even ended up in the cave as an egg, and whether or not something caused it. It's something Spike's wanting to find out most. But the thinking was soon stopped when Spike felt himself itching even more, and he groaned with frustration while he had to scratch himself again. What is going on? I've never felt this itch before. Has Dad gone through it before? Spike asked himself as he couldn't stop it. It was like it was coming back every second, and it felt like it was getting worse each minute. Ugh, let's just hope it goes away once we leave. I can't look like this in front of other dragons. Spike said as he saw the red spots on his body and felt worried over what was happening. Spike soon just tried ignoring all of it and started to walk towards his body and his dad often visited every week or so. It was a place where they played around more and grew closer over time. They did so many activities across this island, and even if staying here for years got a bit boring, they at least managed to have a lot of fun in many places. Spike soon went to a beach that was a good distance away from his home. He could see the sun over the sky since it was around midday from where it is. Spike felt really calm as he saw this beach again. He and his dad often fished here outside of their home, or just played in the water. Spike smiled to himself as he sat down near the beach, reflecting on everything that's happened with him and his dad. While they never went far outside of this island, he remembered the many years they've spent together. Whenever Spike or his father got sick in some way, they were there for Easter, or when either of them got injured, they used what they knew to help with injuries, or even during some beautiful nights with a borealis in the sky, he and his father would fly over the island and even beyond it a bit to see how far it goes. Spike sighed with joy as he reflected on everything, and even if he will miss this place when they leave, he knows they'll make better memories together out there. Only one more day. And then we're finally gonna leave. It's crazy that this is actually happening. Spike thought to himself as he looked at his claws, and wondered if he's even strong enough to keep his dad safe, like he will for him. I wonder if all he did to raise me will be enough for what's out there. For what we'll find, he has said there are dragon hunters out there, or people even worse than that. But are all of them out for us? There's got to be someone that's different out there, right? Spike asked himself as he looked up at the sky. He could see some large dragons flying high in the sky above the island, not going to it, but away from it to other places, and Spike wished he knew where they were going. But as he was reflecting on everything, it was ruined yet again by his itch, and it made him growl in frustration while he scratched himself. Oh, come on. Why does this keep happening to me? Spike asked with frustration as he got back up, feeling the moment was ruined because of it. Spike felt his itching getting even worse by the second, and he couldn't help but feel more frustrated and worried because of it. He should have had his father come with him, because he may know what's going on. Barely had any time to reflect here. Let's just find out how to get rid of this stupid itch, and hopefully that will let me take in what's going on. Spike told himself as he started to run back to the cave to see if his dad knows anything. Spike ran through the forest as fast as he could. He tried his best to ignore what he's feeling right now to make it back, but it was getting even worse, and he swore he saw his own body starting to glow suddenly, which turned his frustration into fear. Oh no. What's happening with me? Spike asked with fear as the itch was getting out of control, and he ran even faster to the cave to get help. Just inside the cave, the Night Fury was still looking over the cave, feeling worried if leaving it like this was a good idea. They don't know if another dragon will find it. Spike sort of made it look like a place a human would live in, and he questioned himself on what to do. We only have the day before we go. Maybe we could use a little extra time to take some of this with us. He asked himself as he went to a few old boards that had what looked like photos of him and Spike carved into them. Spike made them during fun times they spent together, and he didn't want to leave important memories like this behind. I think we can take these with us. No dragon is gonna find it strange, right? He asked himself as he was grabbing each board and was about to put them somewhere safe, but he soon heard the sound of heavy breathing growing closer, and he quickly turned to the entrance thinking it was Spike. Spike, is that you? The Night Fury asked with concern as he waited a few moments, and Spike soon finally made it back to the cave after a lot of running, but what surprised him the most is that his body was glowing somehow, and he looked to be scratching himself even more than before. What's going on, son? What happened? He asked with fear as Spike was looking very scared about this too. I don't know. I just went to the beach we'd go to reflect, and my itching started getting worse. Spike sat with fear as his father inspected him closer, trying to take in anything that could be wrong with him, or what could be causing it. Did this itch feel like this earlier before you left? Do you know what's causing it? He asked with worry while Spike scratched himself even more. I said I don't know. It just started getting worse. I did feel it earlier today, but I didn't think it would get this bad. Spike said with fear, which made his father try to think of something. Okay son, calm down, we just need to think over things, maybe there's something in here that can help. He suggested while Spike felt something strange was happening. I don't think there's anything that can help with this. Maybe it's something that happens for the type of dragon I am. Spike asked hopefully while his father sat down in front of him and held his head in frustration. I don't know son. I really don't. He said with guilt as he didn't want his son to go through this kind of pain right now, and what made it worse is that Spike's body was suddenly starting to turn to stone, like his scales were becoming like it more by the second. No. Dad. Dad. Spike screamed as he held out his hand for him to help, and his father quickly rushed over to him to try and get him out of this. Hang on. I'll get you out of there. He said with fear as he grabbed his son's claw, which turned to stone too, and he could see Spike was even more scared as it was going up to his head next. No. The Night Fury screamed as he tried to save Spike, but he was too late as what was happening finally covered up his whole body, and it horrified him on what's going on. No. No. Son, please hang in there. He screamed as he tried doing anything to break him free, but no matter what he was doing, Spike's body remained frozen like a statue, and it made him start to cry thinking something awful happened to him. Why in the name of the gods is this happening? What did I do wrong? He asked with guilt as he put his face on his son's forehead, and prayed a miracle or something would happen, anything that could free him. But while the Night Fury was lost in his thoughts, he suddenly felt Spike's body was shaking a bit. He opened his eyes and had a look of shock as his body was starting to crack. The stone around him started breaking apart more and more while a bright light was coming from it, and before he could do anything, Spike's body suddenly broke free, which made the entire room flash brightly with his fire color from the sudden burst of power. The Night Fury groaned a bit as he was opening his eyes, wondering what the heck that even was, but as he was opening his eyes, he could hear Spike groan a bit, almost like he was finally free. Son. Son, are you okay? He asked with worry while he finally looked to where Spike was, and to his shock and relief, he saw Spike was free again, looking like almost nothing happened. He could see Spike opening his eyes, and he felt strange after what just happened. Dad. What happened? Spike asked weakly while he held his head, no longer feeling that awful itch, and before he could get an answer, his father saw something on his back. Something that looked familiar. Son. Look behind you. He said with shock as he realized what they were, and felt overjoyed seeing what just happened. What? Spike asked with confusion before he looked behind himself to see what he means, and as he looked at his back, he saw something that truly amazed him. Did I just grow wings? Spike asked with amazement as he now had very large wings that had grown on his back after what he just went through, and they were both amazed at what they're seeing. You just did. You have wings. He said with amazement while Spike cheered with joy as he could really feel them. He never thought he would grow wings like this after all this time, but now that he has them, it feels amazing. I can't believe it. I really have wings. Which means I can fly like you, Dad. Spike said as he flapped them a bit and was already starting to get a hang of getting in the air, and he was already so proud of seeing him with them after so long. It does. And that means you'll be able to fly with me now. I won't have to carry you on my back all the time, and with enough training and patience, you could be able to fly just as fast as I can, heck, if not, maybe even faster. He said playfully, which makes Spike eager to see what they can do. You think we'll test them out some more when we leave tomorrow? It's gonna be quite the journey for the two of us. Spike suggested as they were finally calming down, and as his father looked over the cave, seeing how many memories they've spent here, he knew that it was time. I think that's a great idea, son. Tomorrow we'll leave, and I'll help you get a hang on your wings. You feel ready to go out there? He asked while Spike looked at his wings, and did a confident smile as he looked at his father, and they both knew that the time's come. We soon cut to the next day after they finally finished packing up whatever they wanted to take with them. Spike got every important thing his father had that they could bring with them, and that included his eggshells which he hatched from. Spike couldn't believe it was happening, even if they were leaving today. He couldn't believe he was going with wings now. No dragon seem could just sprout wings like that, and it made him more interested in knowing where he's from, or what kind he is. We soon see the two of them at the same beach from before as the sun rose. They stood alongside each other as the water flowed up to them and away again. They both took deep breaths as they felt the wind brush past them, and felt it was time to go. You ready for this, son? We can stay a bit longer if you like." The Night Fury asked while Spike tightened a strap on the cloth that carried the stuff they're bringing. "I'm ready for this, Dad. We've been here long enough. It's time we see what's out there. Besides, if anything goes wrong, we can always come back here to rest. Besides, now that we can both fly, we'll be able to go wherever we want, right?" Spike asked as he stood on all fours like his father taught him, and spread out his wings feeling ready to fly. "Yeah. That's always an option. I still can't believe it. After all these years, we're finally going together to see what's out there. I haven't been out there in so long since I started raising you. I'm really gonna miss this place," he said with guilt as he looked back to where their cave was one last time, and Spike only rubbed his head to help motivate him. "Don't worry, Dad. We'll come and visit every now and then. We've got the whole world to explore, and no matter what dangers we face, or any trouble we get into, we'll always go through it together, as father and son," Spike assured, which made him smile hearing that. There's much they can see, and even if they leave this place, they'll always have the memories of it. "You're right, son. I'll always be by your side, just like you will with me. You ready?" he asked as they both spread their wings, and took a few steps back as they saw the horizon just ahead of them. "Let's go, Dad," Spike said with a smile before they both ran towards the edge of the beach. Spike and his father spread out their wings as they neared the water, and once they started to feel the waves wash onto, they both jumped into the skies at once and started flapping their wings. Spike could actually feel himself flying in the air. He saw himself getting higher and higher into the air, seeing the home he stayed in for so long, growing smaller and smaller with each second. Spike couldn't help but feel amazed that he's really flying. As he looked at his father, who smiled with joy from flying alongside him, Spike could only cheer as he circled around his father in the air, feeling so happy to finally be leaving. This was the start of their journey to find a place where they really belong, and answers to who they are, and as Spike looked back at his home one last time, he only prayed they could come back soon one day. And as they left, we see a final shot of the cave they once stayed in, with a carving of Spike and his father on the wall sleeping together. If you guys are enjoying this story, please give it a like, comment your thoughts, give me a follow and share.